Welcome to another episode of the Hero Podcast 64. My name is Ryan G from Netherlands, and of course, my co host, the real Pete Kirkwood. Pete, what is the topic?
Well, today I want to talk about distraction, right?
Mm,
So, the deviation of purpose for a hero, the distractions that come up in our lives as we try and do what's right, what's important, what's best for ourselves, for our communities, for our families, our friends, our brothers, our sisters. It's a bloody tempting world that we live in, right? There's a lot of temptation out there that we know is not the right thing. And there's a lot of things which can easily draw your attention.
right.
Now, something that you and I probably know very easily, Ryan, is that energy goes where attention flows.
Mhm.
And the currency of attention is extremely valuable. But it's not often talked about. And we forget that in as a wider society, just how important it is where we're focusing that attention. And when you look at what distractions and emotional problems and things like that can come into your life, it's just insane how quickly you can have things fall apart. Take, for example, right? Someone comes and they spew some garbage communication on you. Let's come up with something that's not a direct copy from something that's vague. So let's say that they give you a problem, they tell you something's wrong, they can't articulate themselves, and they leave you with a general sense of uneasiness and no concrete anything to work with. So they just dump emotions on you that have no solutions. Now, that's a very easy thing to get stuck with, because if you're used to just, when you see a problem, you can see a solution. When someone else gives you a problem, they give it to you in a way that's so twisted and weird that you can't. Now, if you get distracted by that, you're fucked, because all of a sudden your mental energy, attention, focus, all of it, right? All of that power, all of the resources you have at your disposal are being put towards something that's just a distraction. You're deviating from your purpose, trying to solve this person's problem, when this person's problem, for starters, it's not yours, because it's theirs. It's not your life. It's their life. It's their problem. And that happens to us easier than we think, because we all have family, close friends, work colleagues, something like that, where casual conversation can very quickly become something that sticks with you. Oh, did you hear what such and such said? No, what did they say? Oh, well, if you weren't there, don't worry about it.
Mm,
That there's an emotional bitterness that's left there, what was it, there's something untied, like a loose end. And one of the things I've noticed very successful people do, right, we see Arash do this a lot, is completely disregard something that's not important. And those loose ends of conversation and people's drama and grief that are floating around our lives, did you hear about such and such and such and such doing such and such? Who cares? But it's a hell of a good distraction, and your emotions will jump right on that and take your attention away. And when you go, you know what, it's not important, it's not important, it's not important. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be rude about it. It doesn't mean you have to be a dick about it. Hey, did you hear such and such did such and such and such and such? Oh, awesome for them. Congratulations. Carry on. Oh, it sucks for them. Sorry to hear it. Carry on. You don't have to be rude, but you don't have to get stuck to everything that comes around you. And I think, you've been really keen to get into things like BJJ and stuff like that, and you've had a lot of things take you away from that over the last year, right? So I know how passionate you are about it, and I see how many things prevent you. So what are your thoughts with deviation from purpose and being distracted from what we're trying to achieve?
Right. So let's immediately start talking a bit more practical. One, recently, especially with the phase 2 of bee sting, I've decided to look at, before we look at the money aspect, let's look at the immediate resource aspect, which is time, energy, and attention. We all have 24 hours, the same, it's that philosophy. And if you feel like you don't have enough time, that's not correct. You don't have the correct priorities. And even if you have the correct priorities, you might not have them in the right order or have them with the right people. And thus,
Mm,
what I'm facing right now is something very similar to you, which means I need to start delegating the things that are either noise or things that I simply don't want to do, let's say my marketing. And it's in that I start to find more space. So
yep.
thus I'm starting to advocate things like meditation. So apparently you can work hard around 1.5 hours plus minus, give and take. After the 1.5 hours, you start to lose focus. That means that if I absolutely push myself beyond the 1.5 hours, I am not going to be productive. So might as well do a workout, might as well read a book, might as well, you know what, meditate and handle all the inner tension that has built up. At the same time, I need to follow principles, one of which you've definitely named: avoid and destroy noise, disregard noise, because other people's bullshit is not mine. I already have my own bullshit to deal with. I don't have time. Oh, he died? Good. He's
Yep.
sick? Condolences. Move on. Purpose before everything. I mean, why do we wake up early in the morning? Why do I wake up early in the morning to do this podcast? Start making my life a bit more malleable. Or at the
Absolutely.
very least, use this time to garner energy, mental energy, verbal energy to go about my day. And thus you have the link with what heroes do. Heroes don't have time for the drama of a village, unless, of course, the drama is connected to some sort of way with, uh, you know, the villain of the week or something, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's a different thing. If it's the hero's job, that's
Mhm.
different. That is the hero's purpose, right? That kind of drama, but not, let's say,
He said,
who
she
was caught in
said.
whose bed,
Mhm.
right? That's not the hero's drama.
Exactly, exactly. And also, as an entrepreneur, I just don't care anymore about, the gossip and the this and the that. I mean, it's, don't get me wrong. Attention is the start of all marketing, and that's how they get you. That's why memes are so very powerful. A good meme will catch anyone's attention. And yet, we live in an attention economy. Realize that both from the outer world as well as the inner world, attention is the starting point of all energy, because it's where movement begins. And the moment you realize this, the moment you start to realize that if you feel too tired, you might be giving energy to some place or some person or some time where you're not getting anything in return. Which leads us to the next principle: no one wants or even likes a burned out hero.
True that.
If you feel burned out, it's time to start reflecting on your life, son, daughter. If you feel burned out, it's time to take a quick 2 weeks off and start really reflecting on your life. Go to the beach, take a notepad, and start writing your stuff down.
Yeah, take 2 hours, out of your day if you have to. I've been in that situation where I've
Hmm.
literally walked out of a job or whatever in the past and done that, and that's how I got to being where I am now. Like that's something a long time ago, but at the end of the day, we forget we're all on our own journey, on our own path, and sometimes it's taking that time, however
Hmm.
you need to do it, whatever you need to do it. If you're feeling burned out, absolutely, man. I'm really glad you brought that up. Sorry, go on.
I've been burned out once in my life, and it took me almost 3 months to just get back on my feet. And I remember that feeling of hopelessness, helplessness, shame, disappointment, self-pity, and I never want to go back. It is the
Mm.
most horrible feeling in the world. And looking back, yeah, I can see where I deviated from my purpose. I can clearly see there's an element of deviation. There's an element of, although it was the right job, I wasn't at the right place. And and I remember clearly suppressing that feeling of, that this is not the place for me. I'm not happy here. And of course, purpose for pleasure, I thought, let's subdue the pleasure in order to get the job done. But also realize location and the people you're with
Mm.
can also not be in line with your purpose. Yes, you're there to do a job, but also
Yeah.
understand that if the people don't even know what your job should entail, then maybe you should look elsewhere. Because, deviation of definition is also an issue with a lot of people.
It
And
makes a big
thus,
difference.
exactly, and thus, while a pizza box flows over your head or something? No, I'm kidding.
That's an
While,
umbrella.
oh, an umbrella. While being very clear about what you want starts to become even more a priority. Clarity of purpose becomes thus the more important.
Mm.
So it follows the same lines of your goals, or in other words, your vision is literally a reflection of who you need to become in order to live that new life.
Yes.
It's the same thing
Yes.
with the license process. Who do I need to become in order to finish all the workouts, all the rituals, all the religious stuff before 9 o'clock? That means I need to become someone who gets up early. That means I need to become someone who has his life in order, someone who handles his love life, his financial life, etc.
Yes.
And it's in
Correct.
that knowledge you have a continuous red thread, which looks very similar to I am on my purpose at all
Mm.
times 24/7. Even if I go partying, I have ensured that I've handled what I need to handle so that.
See,
So,
now this is I want to bring up something on that point. It's about what it becomes in that point is it becomes about the weave of the priorities, right?
mm,
Because a lot of people they partying, right? Partying is a good one to start with because you can go to a party and it can be on purpose, and you can party and it can be off purpose. Because if we're going to do a lot of drugs and we're going to get fucked up and we're just going to screw some random women that we don't care about and there's going to be absolutely nothing that comes of this, that's just fucked. That doesn't lead our life anywhere. That's just hedonistic lifestyle that achieves nothing. However, if you're going to a party where you're like, well, we can network to someone, I can know someone who can do something, and after that, we're gonna and relationships are formed, rah, rah, rah. And from that, it becomes an event that triggers other events and things in your life, especially if it's around something you're passionate about and on your purpose, then you've changed the definition. Like that's something I really want to bring up with the deviation, because a lot of the times our purpose is hard to put a finger on it, right? Like we have an idea on a big picture and we'll take the time to sit down with someone like me or Arash or whoever is the expert for looking at the big picture
right.
and get that big picture map. But it's in the day-to-day keeping your finger on the pulse that becomes challenging. So take, for example, at the moment, you'd say my highest purpose is about changing the culture of masculinity on a big level. That steps into my business. But at the same time, to achieve those goals, I'm going to have to hit certain milestones. Certain things are going to help that. So, for example, being committed to Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is going to help build myself and also demonstrate who I am. So, it's very important for my business and my goals that I attend every single class. But then I missed a class. So, why? Well, I had someone who wanted a favor and I had to weigh it up. How important is this person and how important is their favor versus one class. And the reality of it was that they're actually quite important, and I care quite a bit. And like if you saw my post, it was about a 5-year-old's birthday. That shit's important to a 5-year-old. I can watch a video or two to catch up for that in a different moment. And it's funny because when you look at the bigger picture, right? What's on my purpose and what leads me in that direction from a place of the heart, right? From a place of what do I want to accomplish with my life? Not such cold calculating precision that I can't go out and have fun because it's not working on my business, right? How do I make going out into a networking activity? How do I change and move these things so I'm actually on purpose when I want to go and do something fun? Like you mentioned before, after an hour and a half, you're going to meditate, you're going to read a book, you're going to do these things. They're very on purpose. And the thing that is on purpose is keeping your energy aligned. So if your work energy goes for 1.5 hours and filters out, then it is definitely on purpose to do something to restore that, like read a book, go for a walk, whatever. And it's funny because when you brought that up, I've heard that before. We can do 90 minutes. Now, I know that when I'm working through some administration stuff, I'm lucky if I can do 90 seconds without trying to look at my phone or something else. But if I'm lecturing and I'm in a podcast and I'm engaged with people and we're actually doing shit where my vocal skills come out, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, how long do you want me to go? Because it's not work. So, it's how long can you focus and grind at something that is incredibly not you, And when it's that real dense administrative stuff, like that real gritty, I'm a creative, drives me insane. So that's where I tend to, something spontaneous, yeah, let's do it for hours. But something, it's a challenge. How do you see that duality between those two different ways of looking at it, Ryan?
Oh hell yeah, because we're very similar in this sense, although I do specialize in automating administrative stuff.
Correct.
Which is why I like my job. If there's
that's not my thing. It's totally yours.
there's some cathartic value in this, it's like an OCD stuff we both might have, where if I see something that's very inefficient, I get very annoyed. But whereas you walk the other way, I'm like, okay, fuck it, we're going to fix this and figure out why it's inefficient. Hence, I became an optimizer. It is.
I'm going to scrap it and start with a brand new thing instead. You're going to fix it. Like it's, and I was challenged on that concept yesterday actually by another brother in IMC. Because I said, no, I refined the payment processing system for one of the best things in the country. And then I realized, actually, no, I didn't. I threw the whole thing out the window and built one from scratch. And sometimes that's the answer. But often when you're working in people's businesses like you are, you're the expert at coming in and they give you a mess and you go, great, I love untangling messes. That's my jam. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I definitely learned was, don't take the mess personal. Don't make the mess your own. It's about staying so objective that you can see the black from the white and ignore the gray. And why am I saying ignore the gray? Because you see the gray are simply symptoms of the true root cause.
Yes.
And how this relates back to the deviation of purpose. Often all business starts with the personal lives of the employees, the director, the owner, because evidently the personal life will seep into the work environment and vice versa. And this follows the principle of the way you do one thing is the way you do all things.
Very true.
And even if you would have these absolute beast of super productive, employees, if you look at in the way that they do this, it can always be improved upon, meaning the level of ease in which things are done. Which leads us back to, do you want to have a burnout hero, or do you want to have a hero that's pretty chill about everything and is still productive? And of course, we will all rather be, this guy. But how do you become that? Then it all goes back to you have 24/7. You have 24 hours per day. What are you doing? If you
Correct.
start the first few hours, let's say the first hour, focus on getting your mind right. Getting up early, making up your bed, doing a quick cold shower. Quick, just 10 seconds, 1 minute, who cares? Brush your teeth. Make sure the things that you need to do are done. The health priorities, doing a quick walk around the neighborhood, getting your mind at ease, maybe a quick workout, eating healthy, avoiding social media for the first few hours. Just doing
Not
that.
good at that one.
Yeah, I know it's a struggle. Writing in your diary, reading books, and getting your mind prepped for work or whatever challenges that you face. I mean, the Lion's Den rituals have helped me prep myself a lot for the day.
Hmm.
And of course, I wouldn't be able to finish all the workouts, but I would carry myself with more pride, knowing that I've already done this. So, handling my time, my energy, and my attention resources before the day begins has placed me way ahead of anyone else.
Yes.
And here's the thing, even if, be it my IMC brothers or whomever, if they do better in whatever aspect, now I can use that as inspiration to handle my life even more. So evidently, it becomes not about staying more purpose, which is still the point of this podcast, but it becomes even more, how well are you handling your life?
Yeah, see, there's something there. You draw it out. Like I can see the analogy in my head, right? Like what you're saying is when you clean yourself first, right? You take the
Mm,
time in the day to clean yourself.
mhm.
Now that means mentally, physically, have a shower. Yeah, brush your teeth, like clean yourself. It means there's less sharp edges, less jagged, less rough edges for something to catch on and pull your attention away during the
Yes,
day. You're smoother, you'll flow better on your purpose, on your track, all the rest of it. And it's like when you see somebody else and you're like, oh, he did this and it smoothed that even more, even smoother. Oh, that makes that even smoother. Get through there even better now. And it's
great
that
metaphor.
it's like sharpening the axe, right? Your best thing to get the tree down is sharpen the axe. And it's funny, right? We talk about how do you avoid distractions? Well, you do the work first to make sure that when the distractions turn up, like they say, don't go shopping at the supermarket hungry. You'll
Yeah,
buy get food.
buy everything.
We all do. We all do it. Like the amount of times that you're like, oh, I'm out of milk and I need some milk for this, so you go down just to get milk and you're like, oh, I'll grab some, I'll grab some, I'll grab some. Oof.
Every
And
time.
the thing that's funny, I think, is our awareness about it, right? Because one of the biggest gifts we can give to people is just making them aware of a new concept that they didn't know. That's called teaching and transfer of knowledge. And literally, if you've listened to my podcast or our podcast to this point, and neither I nor Ryan have said something which you've gone, wow, that's interesting, and you've had a realization of some kind, I need to know who you are. I'm going to pay you $100 because I don't believe you.
Mm.
So that transfer of knowledge that's available as you create that awareness in someone where they can go, hey, I just did this thing where I got distracted from my purpose because I did XYZ. And if I did ABC, I could stop it. Bang, you just changed someone's life for the better.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's
Mm-hmm.
about giving people that awareness to feed themselves and fish for themselves. Don't just give them a fish. And there's a lot of people out here who are giving out whippy quotes, live, laugh, love, shit like that, just catchy things that sound nice. It's, oh, that's nice. And it's like a band-aid all the time. And it never, ever, ever creates lasting change. Maybe I've seen too many motivational quotes today. I don't know, but I felt that vibe,
Of course, of course, of course. The
So that
greatest motivational quote would always be purpose before pleasure. And Adam welcome to
that's
the
very
call.
stoic, isn't it? That's very stoic, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think that purpose before pleasure really sums up how to avoid those distractions easily, especially if you think of it. It doesn't say instead of. It doesn't say you can't have fun. It just says that the work comes before the fun. So you can do both, right? We can sit here and we can have a business lunch and we can have a beer because we can do the fun, but we're having a business lunch, so we can have a beer. It's not like, oh, I went out and had beers with the boys. Well, did you get any work done? Totally different. And I think that a lot of the times people struggle because they make it too hard on themselves about whatever are goals and things they're trying to achieve in life. They come down on themselves like a ton of bricks, and they don't give themselves any forgiveness, any wiggle room, anything like that. And they treat themselves like a machine when they're a human.
Right.
You know? And it's that self-compassion, because if you can't have that self-compassion, it'll express negatively outwards, like, man, I could go on. So I think that purpose, we've got a few minutes to go. You know, what would be your closing thoughts around that, Ryan, around staying on purpose and keeping away from distractions?
I believe ACD said something either last night or the night before. Be your own father.
Oh, yeah.
Generally be your own father. I mean, who would your ideal father be? Be him for you. It works perfectly for when you have to make tough decisions like cutting off bad friends. Because that's a very powerful noise that a lot of men especially have. Cutting off bad friends, bad influences. I remember almost half a year I had to cut off a bad friend because he disrespected me publicly.
I
And
remember
that's not
this.
and it still haunts me. But I know I'm better because of it. Because as a man, I cannot accept that. Even if it wasn't necessarily taking away time, it is taking away a lot of energy I could have used for my business, to be better in sports, to get more money, to get better women. You know, it's all about money, power, and respect. And if I,
100%.
it's all about that shit while Adam fixes teeth.
The thing that's funny is you literally, shout out Adam, 100%. You literally mentioned in there about how it created that energy. It wasn't the time, it was the energy. But because you're well aligned with your purpose, you took that energy as a fuck you, I'm going to prove you wrong and I'm going to go and use it positively. You know, if you're not well dialed in and you don't have a good understanding of what you're trying to achieve in life and what your purpose is, it's very hard to stick to doing the right thing, because it's way easier to open a bottle of whiskey or go buy some drugs or just call someone you know you shouldn't. Like, we've all got someone on our phone that we should hang out with, but we do, we're feeling like shit. And that vibe is so much easier to avoid when you're like, you know what, fuck him, I'm going to prove him wrong by changing the world, by providing for my family, by becoming a millionaire, whatever it is that fires you up at life, you know. And I've seen that in you, how you've changed that around, and that's where a lot of that energy comes from. I guess that's a lot of what I'm looking to do with this next 100-day challenge, right? It's to help me stay on that purpose, this next 100-day challenge. And I've got some big business goals I want to pull out of this one. You know, we've got like a minute left. I'll save it for another podcast. Just in closing, guys, you know, it's about knowing, it's about having a good understanding of your purpose will help keep you closer to it and make it a lot easier to do all of those little maintenance things that'll stop you falling off.
Fantastic. See how we have a minute left. Let's close this podcast. This has been the Hero Podcast. My name is Ryan G from the Netherlands, and of course, the real Pete Kirkwood, the Kingmaker, and of course, our guest, Adam. What's up, man? Thank you for joining the live. I wish you all a fantastic life. May your life never be the same. Good night.